Good. Okay. Anyhow, this is the other one that I mentioned that I saw Windows driver blocking software from changing the default web browser.
Boy.
There's a way to fix it, but it's going to require you going in and manually modifying the registry unless somebody's already built a program to fix this. Now, most people don't normally change their default browser too often, but it looks like once this thing goes in, you won't be able to change it to anything else.
Unless you do something to your registry.
Unless you do something to your registry, yes.
Terrific.
And they were calling this thing a driver?
Yeah, this thing is a driver, actually, that it was installed somehow, or it mimics a driver, Windows driver. That's the way they talk about it. So just from people changing that default configured Windows 10 and 11 default browser through software, or if you tried to manually modify the registry, it wouldn't take. You have to change other things in the registry first before you're allowed to change the default browser. So
Man.
it's an interesting possibility here that if you run into this particular thing, it may cause you some additional grief. I mean, it's like I said, I found this thing. It came in an email to me and said, "Here's a couple of the places." So it has to do with the actual creation of the hash for a registry value that is used to contain some of the strings that they're looking for. So he did a lot of work. That really looks like work. Reverse engineering the hashing algorithm. And went to a lot of headaches here. Anyhow, I just thought I'd show that, and if anybody wants that, I'll just put that on the chat as well. Let's see if I can find my chat. There's the chat. Good. And I will throw a copy of that thing. And let's see.
So what you're posting includes information on fixing it?
Yes, that is correct.
Good. I'm sure it'll show up in my Windows Secrets newsletter one of these days.
Yeah, it probably will. Yes.
Of course,
if it hasn't already. So anyhow, that's
recommendations always are to hold off a couple of weeks on the monthly updates.
Usually I wait when they have a bunch of problems with the monthly updates. I usually wait almost the 3/4 of the month before I even think about considering that. I mean, one of the things that just popped in relatively recently, there's a new version of Zoom that's out there, 6.0.0.
Yes.
You know what happens with the 0.0.0s.
Mm-hmm.
That's the alpha test for the people that want to try it.
But it's APCUG has been having real problems because of that new update.
I'm running it. I have no problems, but then again, I'm only running it as a client, not as a host.
I saw this yesterday and I said, do I want to chance it? No.
Well, actually,
this one works. I'd use this one. I'm going to use it at least through this meeting. Then I can go play with it. Usually I'll wait for the .1 release to come out because the .0's got something broke in it.
Well, Tuesday,
there's too much stuff that changes.
Tuesday, I hosted with 6.0.0 installed.
Well, Tim, I seem to recall a meeting or two back where you had some significant issues on recording.
Yeah. But I mean, this one, I wasn't experiencing any problems, but the bad part was I only had really 2 people show up, so I didn't bother recording the meeting.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it would work.
No, I mean, everything else was working fine. The problem comes in when you're hosting, they're doing extra things on your computer that you as a client aren't running. That's where the problem comes in. That and where they've made some changes. They took away some features that APCUG uses and may have moved things around some. All great improvements, kind of like Microsoft. What can I say?
Right. The other
I
thing that I saw that looked interesting, there's now, I don't know why they're offering it as such, but now Xfinity has a new service called Now Internet
What?
that for
yeah.
a token amount, okay, for 100 megabit throughput, $30 a month, it
Yeah.
includes unlimited data and an Xfinity gateway.
Well, part of that is the FCC officially declaring 100 megabit service is the minimum now.
Well, I'm not worried about the amount of service being minimum or maximum. The thing that I'm looking at is unlimited data.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so this is the first time you can get an unlimited data for less than running full gigabit throughput,
A lot of competition
which
is
costs a lot more.
a lot of
Yes.
competition is going on right now, even among the big ISPs and that for business, and it's causing some of the prices to come down just for quote the internet service. They'll gouge you to death on TV service if you're crazy enough to use it.
But the question is, how many people actually have an opportunity to switch to more than one internet provider? Unless you're in a major metropolitan city, you don't have a choice of internet provider. You either
That's
go with the devil or the devil.
that's right. I agree with that.
We've got Verizon Fios.
Yeah, and you don't have an option to use something other than Verizon Fios.
Yeah.
That's the monopoly in
No,
your area, right?
we've got Comcast, we've got Verizon,
Oh, you got
and
two. Yeah.
parts of our city have RCN. Well,
Uh-huh.
Astound, and there is a new service from NStar, which is the 5G fixed wireless that's up on the poles in these little bread boxes.
Okay.
We don't have it in my apartment community, but that's because everything here is underground.
Yeah.
So
But they're doing
there's
that.
4 options, and there could be a whole lot more with the 5G.
Yeah. Metropolitan, suburban Chicago, you got, if you're close enough to Chicago to get Astound or RCN, you have a choice. But right now, Comcast is the only one that's laid this stuff out here. Unless I want to chance the 5G going through T-Mobile and dealing with slowdown if too many people get on.
Right, and that's something that a lot of people don't know about that go to the 5G from like T-Mobile. How many people are going to the same pole, I call it, where
Yeah.
the antennas are at, because it's a party line, basically speaking.
Well,
Yeah, well,
it's somewhat a party line. It's just that cell is actually broken up into at least 6 or 12 sectors,
Yes.
and you're only going to have to depend on who's on your sector at the time and how much is that cell breathing and how far away are you from the cell.
But when
Because the
Yeah.
guy who's farthest away from the cell that's still connected to it is the one who loses.
yes,
Because when the
that's
cell radius shrinks because of with more usage, it shrinks the coverage.
right.
that's
Well,
that's what's different about the NStar system. The NStar system, these bread boxes are 2 telephone poles apart, and
Yeah, so that's
they serve
microsite
individual
technology.
houses.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to the way the Comcast backbone works.
Mm-hmm.
You can still overload it because the big boxes are like about 2 per block.
yeah, and
Yeah,
on
but
those towers, the segments, if you got too many people on your segment that are doing a lot of heavy streaming, good luck.
that's what they'll do is they'll slow them down, and all of a sudden, then they get screen ripping and whatever. Then they'll find another service. But the thing with those bread boxes that sounds like typical microsite technology, which is
Yeah.
where they wanted to go with 5G and 6G, multiple microsites. And the guy, one of the heads of our company that I was working for at Motorola, once said, "Well, how are we going to deploy all these things? Are we just going to drop them out of airplanes and have them glue themselves onto the highest tower they get close to?" And they're solar powered.
These are powered through big boxes. They run along the same poles that all the other wires do. and they're just attached to the poles.
Okay.
And if there aren't any poles, they'll put in a pole, and that sort of thing.
And they just have a piece of metal sticking out that goes parallel to the power line, so they can just sneak power off the power line.
Well,
they have cables. They have cables that reach in, just like the cable TV boxes do,
well,
and just like the transformers do.
if I understood it right, Europe considers us way behind on the internet. I guess they use their power transmission systems rather than having anything called cable. If you ask a European about cable service in their area, they have no idea what you're talking about.
No.
And they get
anyway,
higher
I just thought
speeds.
that was an interesting thing. For 100 megabits was $25 or $30 a month, and 200 megabits is $45 a month.
Yeah,
And I was thinking that'd be cheaper than my internet that I'm being offered here. If I could say, hey, switch my internet to the Now internet, and cut it down to 200, but just give me unlimited. Boom.
yeah, and Comcast is also changing their phone service. They're offering a new type of service that is $40 a month. But existing customers like me are grandfathered in, at least for now.
Now, this is for wired phones or mobile phones?
VoIP.
Okay. VoIP wired phones are in your house. Yes.
Yeah. So if you have that standalone, you can add that phone on now as premium phone for $40 more.
We use the Comcast VoIP service for our church with the business plan. However, they just made a total mess of their system. It had separate billing systems for the VoIP versus the regular internet, and it was just massive snafu. And they lost track of credit cards and such, so it wasn't billing everything. And then by the time I finally figured out what was going on, oh, you have a $600 bill that hasn't paid. Like,
yeah, similar things are going to happen with this stuff too. As soon as you start unbundling things, it gets complicated.
Right.
The Xfinity Mobile is an entirely different thing.
So one of the reasons that I came up with this presentation was recently I was trying to help somebody with his system, and he's got Teamviewer installed, the quick support, and I could just log on and help him with his backup that he always seems to forget how to use every month. And because he changes the different drives he's going to put it on, so he's trying to keep it separate so he at least has a backup, and something always gets messed up along the way. And then all of a sudden I noticed Teamviewer kept disconnecting, and I couldn't figure out what it was that it was complaining about. Somehow it thought that I was a commercial user of Teamviewer and not using it per the terms of the free use. They said, we've determined you're a commercial user. And it's kind of difficult to argue with somebody in another country. So, especially said, so you can give us a call. Here's our telephone number. Like, yeah, that'll be about as much after I get done with that call as it does to subscribe for your product at like about $800 a copy. At least that's what it was last time I looked at it. It's probably up from there. And the fact that they've come out with, I was never really one that I wanted to try and do a commercial license with them because they kept on coming out with different versions all the time. Like, how many versions does this entitle you to if you buy one commercial version? And I started on TeamViewer 8, and that was in 2013. And now they're up to 16, I think, 17. I'm not sure. It's something like that. It's up there. It's beyond 15 where I stopped. And I'm thinking, well, if I had to upgrade each time they upgraded TeamViewer and pay another $800,000 a copy, definitely not worth it for supporting somebody that I'm not charging anything for.
Ed, try AnyDesk.
I have a presentation that talks all about these things. There's a whole lot of them that are out there.
Yeah.
A lot of them are trials. Okay. There's Rust-Desk. There's all kinds of others. I've been using the
AnyDesk even for Some cases that took me hours on end.
Mhm.
And I haven't been asked to go for a commercial license.
Well, I thought I was fine too using PC Anywhere, and not PC Anywhere, but TeamViewer, and all of a sudden, you get this surprise email, that says, yeah, well, I asked them to reconsider, and they still said, no, we think you're doing commercial use. So, fine. You can think that. I will just no longer recommend your product.
I used
You know,
TeamViewer for a little while, but I found other software, including AnyDesk, that I like a lot better.
the one nice thing that I don't think I put in my presentation, but the one nice thing about TeamViewer was you could set up unattended operation on a machine and be able to log in and check on it when you needed to, and you didn't have to have somebody there to hit enter or something on any of the utilities that you wanted to run. Occasionally something would hang up, but for the most part, it was pretty much sane, and you could do that kind of stuff. And unattended would be great, but if it can't be unattended, then you have to have somebody sit there and hit the user access control and say allow,
I
because that's
think
typically one of the things when you
I,
try and run some privileged
I think
utility, it'll want to do user access control, and then you can't access that from the remote control session.
I think AnyDesk can do that remote because in APCUG there are a lot of people that because they live in mountainous territory have on top of mountains some shacks for both ham radio and computer connectivity. And wherever they lived down the valley, and they remote up to that all the time. And that they have security cameras as well. So if they can do it, I would think that would take care of your issue too.
Well, there's other ways to do it too. You could do it through a virtual network connection, a VNC type of arrangement where there's a lot of them that also offer remote control support. So there's your security, plus it's also your control, all locked into the same utility. And that works too if you have the right versions and make sure that the operating system doesn't try and preempt what you're doing.
Yeah,
But
hopefully the kids aren't still playing with VNC like they used to a few decades back.
well, like I said, there's other versions out there for older computers too. Supposedly, those guys that are using some of those things in ham shacks don't always upgrade to Windows 11. XP is fine for some of those guys. So let's see. What are we doing here? 20 after. Okay. Any questions that you guys brought to have for open forum? Sure. Go ahead, Sid.
Okay. I'm running 6.0 by the way here. And it has a couple cool things like you can pin multiple speakers. So instead of flipping in gallery view, you can actually click the three dots on a speaker and pin them and pin multiple. The host
Okay.
has been able to do that, set up multiple speaker, but now the users can set up their own version of that. And of course, they changed the name of the app now to Zoom Workplace.
And
Instead,
this is beyond Spotlight.
yeah. Well, see, the difference is Spotlight is a host function.
Right.
This is a user function.
Okay.
You can, if you pull down on top the view
I thought you
thing,
could pin multiple before though.
they added, it's called multi-speaker. If you pull
Oh,
down the
okay.
view at the top, and that's a new thing that they've added. You can now drag and move the some of the icons on the bottom also. That's going to make support kind of a mess because you're telling people to go over a number of icons. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's where it's going to be. They added a few color background changes. They're calling them themes. All I see it do is change the color of the background a bit. Doesn't seem to do
Okay.
much beyond that, but you got the ability to do that as well. But I haven't seen any problems with it.
You
So it,
sure? Because I'm wearing a green shirt and a yellow background.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
being able to move the icons around on the taskbar area is really nice in version 6.
Oh,
I just
for the theme that you brought up, I just tried one called Rose instead of Classic. Classic was just a black background. Now I've got a rosy background just for Zoom.
Yeah, that's what I said. It only seems to change the color. It doesn't seem to really be a theme. It just changes the color of the band. Maybe they'll
Well,
add
that's what they
more over
call, I
time.
guess, a theme, but I
Hmm.
don't understand why at the moment than you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I don't know how I look. I'm trying a new camera. This is a Logitech Brio 301, which I actually checked out of the library. All the libraries now are doing lots of devices to bring people in. So I checked this out of the library. So this is a Brio camera. It's kind of cute. It's got a rotating cover that goes over so you can cover the lens
Yeah,
instead of having to add something on it to put down or put tape or something over it. This
it's a
has a thing you can just swing
right.
it down.
It's a
It also
privacy.
has an LED light that gives the to add light to the person on camera. Doesn't seem to be ultra powerful, and in some ways it's annoying because if you try looking in the lens, this light keeps hitting you
Well, I
with
know
this white light.
the light is causing your face tones to change colors a little bit. I noticed that. So I'm not sure if that's
Yeah,
the camera trying to resolve it or what
yeah,
it's actually picking.
I'm not sure if I go like that. Now I've got my thumb over the light part, so
Yeah.
this is without that light.
Yeah, because the
Uh,
light is
it,
not doing a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's enough to be annoying though. The old ones had a little red dot that told you when it was on the early ones. The later Logitech that I have has lights on the sides
My
when the camera's active.
my light.
yeah,
It's
It's 12 5 watt LEDs.
well,
So
I
yeah.
have a ring LED clip on that's clipped onto the monitor. And I've got three different
yeah.
shades of light. I use more like daylight one, and I always have to dim it some.
Yeah, but you also have it positioned so that you look like a disembodied head on the
So,
corner of the thing.
no, that's because of the chair. The chair wants to lean back all the time, and that's why I'm the disembodied head. I don't care.
You just need the little dome that goes over it, like they had in The Simpsons.
Wasn't that from Third Rock from the Sun? Wasn't there the big head who was supposed to
great
be the
giant
boss
head,
guy?
the great
Giant
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 head.
head,
head,
great
and
giant
The
head.
great.
they finally had the great giant head come in as the entire entity, and it was William Shatner.
Which is a
Yeah,
great giant head, yes.
some people would swear he has a swollen head anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, you never know. The picture behind me, this version of the eclipse, is taken by the Hubble.
Hmm.
This is a Hubble shot of the eclipse.
Oh, that's cool.
I was down in Carbondale at SIU in the same seat I was in 2017, and I took pretty much no pictures other than before it started. I took a selfie, and that was about it because I knew there'd be tons of professional pictures taken, and so why waste your time with your phone trying to hold the glasses? People were trying to hold a pair of the solar glasses in front of the lens of the phone to take pictures of this.
so that they didn't burn out the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
They had all sorts of handout things that they gave out from NASA. They had a bunch of things, including a thing with different shaped holes in it, so you could cast shadow down. And it had a triangle, a circle, and a square. And as the eclipse expanded, the square looked more like a rectangle, and the circle looked more like an oval. Actually, as it went along, I love 3 seats down from me was this guy wearing a NASA T-shirt, but a 17, 18-year-old kid. He's going, I don't know that I can take this. It's so exciting. I may have a heart attack right here and now. And I'm looking at this, and the people next to me are just cracking up. The 17 or 18-year-old kid. I'm going to have a heart attack right now. It's so exciting. You're going to have a heart attack at that age. You got more
Apoplectic.
issues.
Yeah, you got big problems.
You got more issues than that. This came today from Woot. These are blink cameras.
Oh,
Okay.
It 2 outdoor cameras with batteries and one of the base units that does let you put a USB drive in it.
Looks just
With-
like the Blink.
Yeah,
Is
this is
it-
the
I wonder if they just remanufactured it themselves.
these are manufacturer refurbs. Wood is owned by Amazon, so it arrived in an Amazon sealed box with Amazon certification.
Are they compatible with Blink directly, or no? You got to have a separate.
No, these are Blink.
They are
The
Blink.
Blink
Okay.
logos. Yeah, these are Blink logos on them. Wood was selling these for 2 cameras plus the module with batteries for $49.
So this was the older Blink that they're trying to reduce the stock of.
No,
They're not
this
Blink
is the,
4s,
this
are
is
they?
model. These are Blink Model 3s.
Yeah, but there's a Blink 4 now.
Well, these are then 3s, so they're not super old.
No, but they were the current ones right before the Blink 4s came out, and they just came out this last winter or something like November, I think, is when they came out. Because I had just ordered some more Blink 3s, and then they started shipping all the Blink 4s, and they said, it's all right, I'll do fine with the 3s. It's not worth the
I just
increase
thought
in
that
price.
was because I have really old original ones, and they stopped support on those.
Yeah.
So I needed to get something to replace them. So these for 2 and the base unit for $50.
They
was
weren't selling
a
the
pretty-
external solar house with the 16550 battery, were they?
No,
Because I know
no.
you can't buy from Amazon just the solar roof plus the battery. You have to buy it with a camera. They don't no, not those batteries. I'm talking.
Well, that's what these
lithium.
cameras use.
Yeah.
Or these lithium, these 2 dual lithium. They use 2 lithiums.
Right, but
in-
if you buy
in
the
these.
solar panel version, they have the big 16550 cell inside, and that solar cell charges that, and then that thing basically plus the solar runs out a USB connection and powers the camera via USB. So you can have a Blink camera out there with you don't put the batteries in it. You just run this whole thing off a USB with a solar and basically it runs until that battery can no longer recharge.
I was at E4 on Tuesday. They rented out all of Drury Lane in Oak Brook, and that is a nice facility to do a small conference because they can do all the keynotes in the big main theater, and it's got all the tech, plenty of comfy seats that are sloped instead of having to look through people. And a pretty good, I've never noticed it before, but to the back, there's a pretty good meeting room facility with plenty of floor space for vendor exhibits. It's E4 being a video audio show. They had some incredible new stuff. The highlight, guys, was Microsoft showing what they're doing with Teams. And between the integration now in Teams of AI and the ability to run camera devices and display devices, certified ones, where it can seamlessly flip images around rooms and add on the new switchers that people have out now. There's a mini thing that's about this big that can go up to an 8x8 grid. So
Okay.
so you can do a tiling, but what's really cool, you can even put in the width of the bezels. So it will synchronize and it will make the image fit. But not only can you put in the bezels, you can put panels across the room from each other, give the distance, and it will handle across the whole room in the grids. And
Wow.
the media player is built into this little guy. Now, this little guy is $1,800. It's a little guy. It's a little
For
guy.
one.
I didn't say it was a cheap guy, but it's a little guy. And it's
Yeah.
quite impressive, the technology they're doing.
You said
Shure has a new microphone system. It has a base you put in each room, and they have handheld mic, lavalier mic, and I forget what kind the third mic was. And if the mic dies in a room, you just grab one from another room, put it in the base, hit the button, and it links it to that room
Okay.
automatically. So
Well,
you can just,
that's sort of like the button that's on the bottom of the microphone anyway, which helps it sync to a new channel. So
yeah,
it's a UHF. They probably had an instrument microphone, no? Like for a guitar?
they weren't showing that.
Okay.
Then there are the microphone guys. A bunch of companies now have in-ceiling multi-array mics that will pick up sound throughout the room. Sure had one. A bunch of other companies did. They're like big round. They almost look like small satellite dish guys. You put them in the ceiling, and they can pick up pretty much throughout the room, and they
And
can
all of
auto
it is
beam in.
sent to Chat GPT?
No, no. One of them has a unit that's about 4 feet long. It looks like a sound bar, except it has the equivalent of 600 microphones in it.
Wow.
holy man.
It can pick up within a 24-foot room any voice and sync in on that. Another company called YeeWow has these cameras that rotate and find the speaker in the room, and by gesture you can do gestures to tell it to lock to you, and wherever you move in the room it will stay with you until you give another thing to release it.
Wow.
You can do. Then they have a feature with whiteboards, like a professor writing on the board.
Mm-hmm.
The camera can lock in on that board, rotate it 180 degrees, and make it transparent. So the presenter is writing on the board, and the people out on camera are reading that screen remotely,
Wow.
with the professor sort of translucent behind the board as they're writing. It's cool. It's cool stuff. They have another one. It's a single camera mount with two views built into it. So it has a wide screen and then an insert close-up screen done with one camera with those
No,
two images.
that's good. Wow.
Um, they there's a lot of cool work being done on this stuff. It's none of it is cheap. That
Yeah.
bar is $4,000 for the to put on the wall.
Well,
The
does it figure
camera
out?
stuff.
Does it figure out which voice to pick up, and it's doing this by which microphone is picking up the right sound bouncing off the wall and whatever?
It it manages to correctly link to wherever the primary voice is coming from with that one. The camera ones are the buzzword, everything there has AI built in now. Um, Sony has this device that they didn't bring it to this show, but one of the presenters, the guy who did the keynote, was talking about it. It's capable of locking in on a group of people in the room. It splits them up to individual videos. So if you have remote people, the people there look like additional people in the room. They're in the physical room, but the way it worked, it makes it look like they're all individuals on Zoom or on Teams. It breaks them up. It breaks them each up into individual cells.
Oh, that's scary technology.
It's interesting where all this stuff is going. Interestingly, Zoom wasn't even there.
How many people from the government were there looking at all this stuff?
I don't know, but this was the most packed conference I've been in since COVID. I mean, the room was overflowing. When I got to one of the Microsoft presentations, the seats were all full. Everybody was standing in the back.
Mm-hmm.
That was full. Breakfast, you had to wait for somebody to get up to get a seat to get your turn. And lunch, they put up 3 locations, one on each side of the convention center, and one on the displays, and then another one where the breakfast was in the outer area. And they were running out of food too, so doing
I can
that.
see why
But
if they were packed.
they were packed. They were doing they're doing a lot of cool stuff. As I said, there's a lot of cool stuff there. It's E4 is an interesting show. This is, I think they said, their 23rd or 24th year.
Wow, that's longevity
Yeah.
if I ever
So
heard it
do
with
it.
any sort of conference.
Right. But the final comment on that, none of these people, I was talking to the Jabra guys. Jabra has some cool new tech also. And I said, here's the problem. I'm president of a computer club. What is there you have as a solution that we can use? And the truth is nothing. There's nothing priced. There's nothing priced for small guys, small group stuff.
Nope.
That's the issue. This stuff is amazing what it does. But you're talking of really incredible. I think it's LG. Get this one. You'll like this. It's $25,000 for a room. And I mean, it's a prefab media room, including the walls, the noise panels, the sound system, the video displays, the ceiling, which has louvers that come down automatically on command in case the sprinklers above it go off, so the water can come down to drench the room. So it's a complete room solution, 25 grand, already done. It's prefab. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's cool stuff.
Well, Sid, all you got to do is find out how to get a discount that moves the decimal point to the left 2 to 3 digits.
Or free samples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck on doing that.
I mean,
one.
some
I'll
of
tell
it-
you where the decimal. I'll tell you where the decimal point is moving, and then I'll shut up because you want to get the presentation. Tesla is not selling well, evidently, right now.
Right.
I saw a thing on Slick Deals, and I looked at the Tesla website at the buying thing. You can pick up a Model Y with 86 total miles on it for 35K right now. After the 70, because it's eligible for the government $7,500 credit. On top of that, that is cheaper than and that's the long range Ford dual motor all-wheel drive model. That is darn cheap for that sucker. It really is cheap. It's cheaper than a Model 3 because the 3s aren't eligible for the credit anymore. They've used them up.
Yeah, that happens.
Cool stuff. Cool stuff.
Well, you could you sound like you were doing a little bit better than what I had to deal with. I'll show you what I happen to have to had to deal with. I got a call from someone and said, "I need your help really bad." So I will show you what they brought me, and they said, "We need you to find a home for these guys."
Oh, no.
Somebody had left these two in a cardboard Coke box on top of a garbage can outside of a Marshall's in the back. And this person I know was going, buy it, and they just started peeping. So she found them and didn't have any place she could take them to. They're regular Pekin ducks. I think they're regular white ducks. They're domesticated, so you can't take them to a wildlife rehabilitator. So this happened to be the box that I kept him in for about 2 weeks. And they eventually got to about, let's see if I got a better one right here. That's a much larger box, and they are almost a foot tall in there, and that's in 2 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah. Fortunately, we were able to find someone who's got chickens and is allowed to have chickens in a nearby suburb, and it's the daughter of a friend of ours. So she was very happy to adopt them as a final home. But
Better than leaving him outside a KFC.
yeah, just yeah. I mean, I don't know. You can't buy individual chicks and ducks or bunnies around Easter in Illinois. There's laws against that, especially if you try and dye them color. But somebody tried to do that, and it just seems kind of a shame. But anyhow, so we took them in. I went to Tractor Supply, got the right duck food for baby ducks and for adult ducks, and they chowed down on that. And every morning they expected to be able to swim in my laundry tub. You put about 6 inches of water in a laundry tub, and ducks take to water. Let me tell you, they don't need to be trained. They just started swimming around. They started diving, just shooting across the tub. Yes. There's a wall there you're going to hit. They didn't care. They were happy. So now that they're off on their own now, they'll have some chicken friends. And hopefully that works out okay. So let me get my presentation here. I think I got it in one of my, is this the one? Or is this the one? Let's see. Get rid of that, get rid of that. That's not the one. So let's do this. Okay, good. All right. Now we can do share of that. All right. Everyone can see that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So this is remote support options and alternatives to Teamviewer. So, and I've used a number of tools to handle remote support and remote machine management over the years. Go back to way long time ago, PC Anywhere with basically PC DOS days. Go to my PC, log me in. Teamviewer, I was using even through Motorola back in 2013 with version 8. But now they seem to think that I'm using it for commercial use, and it only gives you about 10 minutes before it shuts down your session. So it lets you connect, say hi, and then click crash. And I know I could probably set up a alternative login address, username, email address, or whatever, but I just said, fine, I will find something else and then let everyone else know, that there are better alternatives out there and maybe they'll have less people. But the good things about TeamViewer, it was kind of nice with this thing called quick support. You didn't need to send somebody an installation program and disk or something. You could have them just go onto the TeamViewer website, click quick support. It would download a program, one single program. You could just run it and it would set up that machine so you could log into it. I mean, you still had to put in like maybe a password or something, or allow somebody to read the password to you so you could log into it. It wasn't unattended use. You'd have to have the full TeamViewer to do unattended use. But the host one, you could connect, and basically you could run almost everything. You could do a reboot, but you couldn't stop it in the BIOS, or you couldn't do any of the other things that you normally would have to have the network stack up and operating for, so you could control some of that. Screen sharing was relatively fast, and it would scale appropriately and give you a slider bar capability so you could go handle a screen larger than your own. So having the slider bar on the side that lets you move up and down and move things, that's kind of convenient if you have a smaller laptop screen and you're dialing into something that's a desktop. Bad things about it: it was extremely obnoxious whenever new versions would come out, trying to get you to upgrade to the newest version. And sometimes it would say, I'm not going to support your old version, and force you to update when you least needed it. Paid versions were very expensive compared to some of the alternatives at the time. I remember when I purchased PC Anywhere, it was 50, 70, or $100 or something for a copy, and you could use it up to on the three targets. This one was like $800 to $1,500 and on up, depending on how much commercial contacts you needed with it, or if you were going to use this in any sort of commercial environment. And the fact that there were versions from 8 to 15 over a period of like 7 years, that's like a version a year. I'm going to get a new version all the time and pay that again. Maybe that's their game plan for business, but it's not so good for an individual user. First alternative is Quick Assist. It had been a freebie app installed on Windows 10 and 11, but now you might have to download it from the Windows Store. It's still free. Supports both Windows 10 and 11. I happen to have them on both of my Win 10 machines that I use, and tested it back and forth between each other. Host mode does require a Microsoft account, but it doesn't require that host machine happen to be set up with that same host account. So I have local admins for my machines. I don't have Microsoft accounts associated with them. I could just use my Microsoft account I use for Outlook, and it was happy to use that for the credentials. The client machine does not need a Microsoft account. Downside, it only supports the OS 10 and 11 prior to these releases. There was other things out there called Remote Desktop Assistant, and then there was Windows Remote Assistance was a previous one to that, and goes back further than that. Basically, it leveraged on remote desktop support, remote desktop access in some of those, and you had to have certain holes poked through in your firewalls. And Quick Assist doesn't seem to need that, and it uses a Windows server to handle some of the negotiation and logging in. pretty much it works out of the box without major changes. You don't need to change the network or the firewall, and all the ports were already available. Didn't have to poke holes in any of those to make it work. And it scales screens appropriately. Let me add Terry. Okay. The screen scales appropriately, but there's no slider bars. So if you have a higher resolution that you're dialing into, it's going to shrink the window down, and now it's going to be harder to read. It requires that the supported user that you're trying to log into help manually type in his support passphrase and also to allow control of his machine. And you have about a 10-minute window to connect, but once you're connected, there's no limit on the connect time. And basically, here's on my other laptop taking a picture of this particular machine that I was supporting with it. And basically, everything I tried to do pretty much worked as well as what it should. Okay, it wasn't just a screen sharing, but it was actually able to control launch programs, user account control, those kinds of things. All that worked. Other options, open source. There's a thing called Rust Desk that's out there that seems to be very popular and supports multiple targets. But one of the things that you need with something that's open source, you need to have your own domain and be able to control your domain so that you can configure where the Rust server is so that you can make connections. So if somebody wants to talk to a computer running the Rust server that's behind your firewall, you have to put something into the domain records called an A record that points to the IP address of where your Rust server lives so that it can perform the handshake and be able to make the connection between the remote machine and the local machine. Any of those open source machines might have similar limitations. The reason that Quick Assist and Teamviewer don't have those issues because they're using their own servers, Microsoft servers or Teamviewer servers, to be able to do the negotiation. So when you run both ends of the program, they both handshake through their manufacturer's server and make the connection through them. And then they can check to see who's using their product every single time you use it. Well, what about Chrome Remote Desktop? That Chrome Remote Desktop was an idea I thought I might try and use. You can use this. It's an extension added into Chrome, and it does allow you to use one machine to basically watch the other and do some minor stuff to control it. Does not require a separate server. You do have to have some setup in advance. This isn't a quick support easy thing. You have to do a couple steps to get it working. And once you got it working, it sort of works. Okay, it's not too bad. It's similar to Quick Assist, but you have to do Chrome Remote Desktop.msi and run it and have that on both computers that you're going to do the host and the client. That makes it easier. Your email address from Google will be exposed to the client computer and also your IP address once you make the connection. But some of the apps that you try and run might not all interface the same way. It's not going down at an OS level and capturing the keystroke and the keyboard at the same level that the other programs do. You don't have control of user account control. So if you run something that requires user account control, the remote user's got to sit there and click it for you so you can go ahead and install or run a program or whatever. If you're doing stuff within the browser itself, it works fine. All of the stuff you do in Chrome browser can be done by the host end. It's just when you start to get out of Chrome and run other apps, not everything can use the keyboard and mouse from your remote machine into the local copy. And this is one of the things where it shows you, like the key, you got to take this and get this to the other machine to be able to open up, and then it's going to prompt you after this. You want this person to control your machine, and you say yes. And it also does not have the scaling on the sides like Teamviewer does, and it reduces the size of the screen, but you basically have access to do some things. You can launch programs, you just can't always control all of them. The clipboard can be shared, but not all apps use that successfully, and no slider bars. And also, there's no file transfer. So if you need to transfer files back and forth, you either have to do it through some other mechanism, like I used to do it with Gmail. You would use your Gmail account and create a message, attach your files, leave it in your draft folder, and then go to your other machine after it's synced, and then you could pull it back out without actually having to send it. Other remote machine managers. Most of these have free trials, but they're not actually free. They're free trials only. And at some point in time, they're going to ask you for, hey, you want to use this for commercial use? You're going to have to ante up. Ninja One, Splash Top, go to my PC, log me in. Again, some of these have these things like free for personal use, but most of these are trials only. Zoho, AnyDesk, I think that was the one that Tim mentioned. ConnectWise, Screen Connect or ConnectWise Access, Real VNC. Now, Ultra VNC is totally free, even for commercial use. Of course, your support may vary because on that one side can be behind a NAT router, but the other one has to be exposed to the internet, usually on the DMZ. So you have a DMZ zone on your home router, and you can connect through that and be exposed to the internet on that port. And the VNC server needs to run on the accessed machine, not the machine that's going to do the control. They also have an older version of this PC Helpware, also available on the same site, but that's for like older versions of operating systems like XP and before that, Win2K, Win98 even, yes. And that's basically what I'd found so far. I'm still looking for additional alternatives for that kind of thing. Let me go ahead and put this in the chat so that everyone can have a copy of that. My computer, yes. Remote support options, open and send. And anybody who's there can go ahead and pull down a copy of it. And that's the ones that I'd found so far. I've actually used the Quick Assist and the Chrome desktop and played with them for a little while to see how well they would work. They could be used in a pinch, and those were free. As long as Microsoft, does not, make it so that we're unable to use it in the future. But, okay, what is flashing up here? Oh, it's just telling me that it's doing dictation? Okay. I just noticed the little flashing star in the corner, and I'm trying to figure out what it meant on Zoom. So, questions? You were using AnyDesk, Tim?
Yeah, I use AnyDesk periodically. I sometimes have used it for many hours at a time.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Sid.
I use Chrome Remote Desktop a lot. I own licenses to Splashtop, but I find Chrome Remote Desktop to be quick. It works on pretty much everything. It's had no problems logging in, connecting when I've needed it to. The only issues I've occasionally had are video. It's resized to the remote. I have one machine, for some reason, it's giving me this box of the screen like that. And I can't find any way to change that. It's a headless machine, so I can't just go to that machine and do anything.
That's probably why, if it's a headless machine. So
in the past, I have used Quick Assist and the Chrome Remote Desktop, but they had too many limitations. Maybe some of those limitations have been improved upon. But since I've been using AnyDesk, I like that more. I have more control. Maybe not as much as TeamViewer might be able to do, but it seems to cover most of my needs.
Yeah, the quick assist seemed to be probably the closest one to do what I will need to do when my friend calls and he's got a problem with his backup, because that was relatively easy for him to set up. So go ahead, Sid.
The other one I almost forgot to mention is Zoom. I use Zoom with my ex every year to do the taxes because I can pull up Zoom, pull up the tax software. I grant her keyboard mouse control. We can still talk and if we want, have video in small windows back and forth at the same time. For that it works really well. It's really cool for that.
I
What?
did successfully use it at least one time, and then they changed something, and I never found how to get back into the remote control capability.
Did you get a free Zoom one that goes more than your 40 minutes?
I was using CCS's.
Well, I know CCS, but I'm saying is if you have to do this yourself and you only have a personal Zoom account, can you go longer than 40 minutes?
Well,
Or do you have a way to get around?
if
You
you
were
go
using APCUG.
I have a free account. You can go the 40 minutes, but then they now require a 10-minute break before you can restart the session again for another 40 minutes.
Right. I've seen that. Yes, Sid?
Just to throw in on that, the one thing though you had that's a little cute thing there is the options for remote control and share are nowhere in the menu until a second person is connected in the session. I
Maybe
guess
that's
they figure it's stupid to try to share to yourself. So the options just aren't there until a second person is in the room, at
okay.
which point the option becomes visible.
Where
Okay.
is that option hid?
It's under the share. It was in the
Okay.
share menu.
Share
And it
sound.
Under advanced, I
and
think.
you
Uh,
yeah, it was I'm trying to remember what exactly it was under. Um, but it was you did a share and then either the other person can request it or you can offer it, either direction.
yeah, it looks like because it
Now
shares and
it I had to change a setting in the account settings on the website
okay.
to allow it. So if that's not allowed, and I don't know why you guys would necessarily have it allowed, it probably wouldn't show.
Yeah, we probably don't have it turned on, so that's probably where.
Plus,
Okay.
plus you're not doing a share right now, so you don't have the share
Well,
menu.
I was looking on the share screen to see where an option, and I didn't see any other places where it could say like keyboard and mouse, and I didn't see anything there. So I
No,
thought,
it's in the
well,
pull down share menu while you're sharing.
okay, hold on, let's do this. I'm going to
Okay.
do share right here. All right, now I'm going to look and see what I have here on the share menus. Multiple participants, advanced sharing options. It's going to need something else because it is more, it's not here. Host only, all participants who can share. Yeah, does not show anything more than that. So it's got to be something particular to the other settings on the account.
They
I'll
probably
have to
changed
go
something
back.
there that hasn't been spotted, so to speak.
Account. All right, I will look at that. Yes, Carl, I saw
You
you had
did
your
you
hand up too. Go ahead.
Yes, my router died. I'm looking for a recommendation for a basic unit.
I've always been very fortunate with the Linksys Belkin remanufactured routers, dual band, something that will support everything you need to use. If you need Wi-Fi 6, this is an excellent possibility to add it. But then anybody who wants to use Wi-Fi 6 has to have the remote adapter that supports it as well. You could, if there's a option that you want to use where the internet provider supplies you a gateway, you can utilize that. However, that costs you more than the router will cost over a period of a year, because your rental of the Comcast box is what, $10 a month now?
I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah, it's so $10 a month. So if you find a router for $120 or less, you're and
Very
and
good.
you already have a cable modem already, correct? Or did that die?
No, I got a modem.
Okay, so you have the cable modem. You're just looking for a new router.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you
I
said it's
used to-
a Linksys. What
Yeah.
model?
I'm currently using Linksys ACS 1900. And you can buy them in either the Linksys flavor, or you can get the ones that have the DDWRT open source firmware on it instead. So I mean,
Yes.
just having the option to be able to put another router package on the same hardware, if because there's no longer, obviously the Linksys 1900 is a little bit longer in the tooth. They don't support it anymore with new downloads, but you could find something in the newer line on one of the Linksys ones. And as long as they have the external antennas on it where you can move it around and help make coverage work, that seems to, works up. Did it completely die or lock up, or what happened on it?
It faded out.
It faded out. So it's dual band or just one band?
One.
Yeah,
Just
this would be an opportunity to get dual band. And then if your laptops and other machines have dual band machines, then they can use 5 gigahertz for speed, 2.4 for coverage, and all your IoT devices can be relocated to 2.4. Cameras, other IoT devices, switches, thermostats, a lot of those things will use up all of your 2.4 spectrum. But the 5 gigahertz is one I use when I want to do Zoom meetings and connections and other stuff for anything that needs more speed. I think this one is a 2013 vintage laptop with the appropriate wireless card, and just using channel bonded 802.11 N 5 gigahertz channels using 40 megahertz bonded channel, I'm able to get over 150 megabits per second throughput on downloads, and basically full speed on uploads. So I get the full 24 meg upload if I need it. And that should be more than adequate to do most everything you need to do, including streaming multiple HD channels and running Zoom at the same time.
great. Thank you.
Yeah. So like I said, they're now made by Belkin, but you could look at any of those type of routers in the same vintage, and then you could look other ones up as well. But you want to get dual band, definitely dual band. And if you want to spend more, add the Wi-Fi 6 gigahertz band as well.
Thanks.
So other questions? Everyone else has answers. Good. I should start answering questions. This is a quiz. I did not look at remote support for other devices that are possibly not Windows-based, although there are some options on some of these other things that let you support either via Android or iPhone or whatever to support doing stuff on a Windows machine. But not having a mouse makes some of that a little more chancy. Yes, Sid.
You didn't mention the old guy in the room, vPro, because it has the advantage of running in the BIOS, which means you can get into a system that isn't even bootable
Yeah, they're still out there. I'm not sure. What's the latest? Will that still work with some of the newer versions?
They just brought out a new vPro update, as a
Oh, they
matter of
did.
fact.
Okay.
Yep,
But that's pretty
yep.
much an Intel thing, though, right? Yeah, it's only Intel.
Yeah.
So,
It doesn't, it's not necessarily Intel chips, but it does need Intel chip BIOS set. So
right.
it's mostly Intel.
So it might not play nicely with the Ryzen 7.
Probably not,
Yeah.
but
I never
on the,
had a need to get down to the BIOS on those machines. Anytime I had to do something that required BIOS on a remote machine, required a trip. Okay, we're going to go work on this machine. Yes, but BIOS updates are something very infrequent. So basically, we did not have to deal with those most of the time. The PC Anywhere, I was able to use and install and support a system in North Carolina for, more than 10 years, and I never visited the site. Not once. Somebody else visited the site, set up some stuff on it, but yeah, that was the support that we had to do for it. They are no longer operating anyway. The person who owns it still had occasion to give calls and still had to use the system we wrote for them. And I would occasionally have to say, here's an update. But
which,
go ahead.
which of course Broadcom now owns Symantec.
Yes.
As they're tearing apart VMware.
I wonder, is that still even around? I wonder if I could take my old PC Anywhere license and upgrade it to Windows 10. It is officially discontinued. Yes, it was discontinued. There was a security flaw in PC Anywhere in January 2012, and it advised users to stop using it in May 2014. That would be Symantec, waiting 2 years to let everyone know that there's a bug in their stuff. Yeah, there were times when remote support software was extremely buggy and would be a real challenge trying to stay connected and get something done before the machine crashed and burned. And a lot of it, you had relatively poor screen support. So you're doing this pretty much in the dark for most of the time, especially like file transfer. You'd load another module and the file transfer would be on the screen and you couldn't see anything else that's happening. But that's what we had to do back then. And hopefully, if I have to do this in the future, I'm going to either use like a quick assist, or if I can get by with remote desktop and I can figure out how to tell somebody how to set remote desktop up themselves on the other machine. It was not as easy as I would have hoped, because there was a couple things that sort of went around in a circle, like many things in Google do. You start clicking on this, oh, do I need to click on that? Oh, I'm back to the first screen again. What am I doing here? Going around in a circle. And this isn't the first time I've had this scenario with setting up something with Google, like setting up domain email with Google. It's a similar type of problem. But that will be another presentation for another meeting. Any other questions that we have, or any other topics that you'd like to talk about? Go ahead.
I always have stuff. Since I bought these cameras, I wanted to figure out how to mount them. They have this stuff called alien tape.
Got it.
Which is supposed to use nanotechnology. Every time I read that term, I think of Seven of Nine from Star Trek. You will resistance is futile. So, so anyway, so I figured alien tape sounded like a cool way to do it because it's removable without leaving residue. So, nice Terry's laughing down there. And well, I brought it up at the APCU meeting last time, and a couple people said, yeah, it does work that way. You can actually reuse it. You wash it, and then you can use it again.
Yep.
One square inch worth will hold 3 pounds. Bigger piece will hold more. Their ad shows a bowling ball, among other things, stuck, but they don't tell you got to use a bigger piece for that. So it seemed like
And
a
they
good way
don't
to
tell
do
you
that.
it's not a 16-pound ball. That's only a 7-pound ball.
It says it will hold. They say they'll hold up to 17 pounds.
Well, that's
They
a
don't
pound
tell
bigger
you
than the
how
largest
big.
bowling ball. Yes,
They don't.
16
They don't
by.
tell you just how big a piece of the tape they have to use.
Yeah,
And the tape is not a lot on a roll. Their standard roll is 7 feet.
7 feet.
Wow.
I thought
7
it was.
feet.
I have to go
They
back
have
and look.
two. They have two kinds. They have a 7 foot and a 10 foot.
I think
If
I
you
may have
get
gotten
the
the 10-foot ones.
if you
Yeah.
got the 3 pack, those are 10 foot. The
Yeah.
individual is a 7 foot.
Okay. Yeah. I got the three
Um,
pack at Menards of all places.
I found on Amazon with 2 day delivery a non-name brand for $2.69 for a 10 foot roll. But I'll be curious to how well it holds up. I've tried using. I have these little things of U glue, it was called, which is
Mm-hmm.
like super. They say they're like super glue in a tape, and those would hold for about 2 days. Then I'd find the camera had fallen the 2 stories down and was in the bushes below.
Not a good place. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So see how these hold up for that.
You may just want to put a USB cable into it to anchor it in case it falls.
Yeah, but the problem with all these cameras is you can't have it on the inside of glass.
That's correct. It's got to be on the outside.
Right. So unless I want to drill a hole through the window, I can't
No,
exactly
just
do
use the
it.
USB cable as a tether where you can plug it into the micro USB port on there and then use it to use some more alien tape to hold it in case the first thing falls.
Do these things even have a USB port?
Sure do.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
Yep.
Huh.
That's how they can be plugged in and be as wired devices.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
And you get a waterproof housing for it, and that's how you do a wired outside camera. And then you got to run the cables.
How do you put the batteries in?
You have to pop the case apart to do that. There's a
It says
little,
it comes with a tool.
yeah, that helps you
In
pop the
the
case.
Yeah, in the box here, this thing.
Trying to remember how you use it.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like that fits in the hole that I took the little rubber plug out of, and you can pop it in this hole. But it looks like there's a screw thing
No,
inside there.
there was something else. I'm trying to remember how I opened my Blink camera.
I wouldn't be asking, but there's no instructions in the box, so I'm sure I can Google it. But since I was here, I thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
It almost looks like it takes a quarter to turn this inside. It looks like that kind of slot.
Yeah.
Okay. He takes that thing off. Okay. On the back.
Well, I took out the little rubber plug.
You
that
can
goes
pull the
over
whole
that.
back off. You should be able to pull the whole back off.
How do
Where's
I?
the rubber plug is on the back.
Yeah, I took out the rubber plug.
You should be able to pull that whole back off.
And supposedly this thing pops in like that.
And then you pull the whole back off. I don't know if it'll help.
Supposedly. No, that just pulls out again. Unless I'm supposed to bend an angle when I'm doing it.
I think you just grab the edge of the back and see if you can pry it apart.
I don't see anywhere to do that. Now, it's possible. It feels like there's tape on there right now that came on there. Looks like the edge of tape right there.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to peel that off?
Don't know. Is there tape all the way around?
Yeah. It looks like that goes all the way around.
See, I don't know. Since this has been remanufactured, they may have taken it apart and then retaped it up and done something. I don't recall. I'd have to go look in my collection of Blink camera modules, old ones that I have that are no longer functional, to see how. But I was able to open them up. There are ways. Is this a Blink XT? No, this is a Blink 2.
Oh, this is a Blink 3.
Blink 3. That's the doorbell. That's Blink 3.
I don't see
Find the
anywhere
battery
to
compartment. Press the latch at the bottom of the compartment to slide it open.
where is there a latch?
It says there's a.
I don't. Yeah, I don't see any kind of latch on. I mean, there's a little door to that USB.
Okay, there's a thing that looks like it's got a slot you can unscrew.
Yeah, that's what he's got.
Yeah.
Yeah, unscrew it.
I'll have to get a screwdriver. I'll do that later.
Yeah, and then basically you can take the. Hold on, let me stop this a moment. Oops.
You don't have a coin in your pocket of some kind?
Oh, actually, the tip of this guy fits that slot.
Probably
Here.
would. All right, that turns.
Anyhow, right here. Hold on, where is this thing? Come on, show it me. Play. He's doing this right here.
Remove the back.
Hold on, let's back it up.
Doubling batteries. Remove the back. You don't want to lose it because you want to put it. Notice if the cap comes loose, you don't want to lose it because you want to put it back. Make sure the back is sealed. Remove the back.
Let's go here.
Use a small screwdriver to pry the back off.
Actually, after he unscrewed the whole
Loose,
thing.
you don't lose it.
Let's go back here. Stop you. All right. I don't like this. So here's his thing.
USB cap.
But he unscrewed it with a dime and then made it back here.
Turn it up.
Yeah, I got it off. The end of this little thing actually fit the slot.
USB cap. Lift that carefully, and you can use a small screwdriver.
Done.
Yeah, this little guy actually, the end of it fits that slot.
I've taken it apart further from this point and unscrewed some of those screws and looked at the circuit boards on some of these things as well. Inside of the Blink control module, there's actually some 3-pin Berg connections, which are serial port access, because it's running a subset of Linux, I'm pretty sure. I think in the open source claims from Amazon, if you look very carefully around its stuff, you may find that it has a reference to BusyBox. So if you are familiar with Linux, you'll know, yes, they've used Linux portions in creating this thing. basically the way those cameras work, the cameras don't actually transmit their data at 2.4 gigahertz. 2.4 is used by the sync module. Sync module then converts and talks to the cameras on 920 some odd megahertz on like a low ray type of scenario. So that's how they are able to talk to the cameras, which can run on batteries then for most of their life until the batteries wear out. And then run for 43,000 minutes of record time on the batteries that they just supplied you. After they use that much recording time, you have to change the batteries because they've exhausted them. But they can do that because those aren't connected via Wi-Fi all the time. They're going through the sync module, and they're able to do much more exotic power saving mechanisms than using Wi-Fi. But other camera manufacturers, other manufacturers have figured out how to do it without using the low range, the longer coverage distances, just using regular Wi-Fi. My Bird Buddy camera, basically, because it only records during the day, it will turn itself off at night. So it's not trying to use Wi-Fi at night, and it doesn't use battery then. And then when I do tell it to wake up, it takes at least 2 minutes before it actually wakes up, because it's not trying to stay connected to the Wi-Fi access point all the time and respond every 10th of a second to a beacon request. Because the beacons on Wi-Fi get transmitted every 100 milliseconds. And if you don't respond to 3 beacons in a row, that assumes you're asleep or off, and it'll kick you off. So DTIM of 3 means that you have to respond to every 3rd beacon. You could modify your access point for your cameras to do a DTIM of something longer, like 10. Then you could go to sleep for a second at a time without having to respond. But that's just what I know about Wi-Fi and about these cameras and such. I do know that once that sync module and cameras are registered on Amazon, you have to unregister them if you ever want to sell them or reuse them, because you cannot unregister them if you don't have access to the original account they were registered to.
I know that's true of all the doorbells, because they don't, because otherwise somebody could just steal a doorbell.
Camera too. That's why they put that barcode on the back as well. So the barcode plus the original email address that they were registered with are both required. Interesting.
It comes
So,
with little mounts.
Yep. And if, like I said, for outside use, on some of the ones they actually give you like a rubber covering or something like that. Yeah, that thing that will help seal around the connections. Yeah. That one, for the most part, is pretty much sealed. But if you wanted to use something like a mini outside, you'd have to put like a silicone rubber thing. And they do sell other silicone rubber covers for the whole thing to help protect it on heavy downpours. It looked like it was flashing because it says, I want to connect to my sync module. Where's my sync module? It's not plugged in
not plugged in yet.
Yep.
Evidently, these can handle up to 4 cameras.
10.
Yeah. Okay.
10 cameras. Yes. Each sync module can handle 10 cameras.
Okay.
And that does not include the minis. The minis do go directly from Wi-Fi because they're powered on all the time. So the mini and the pan and tilt minis don't count on that 10 because they're not controlled by the sync module.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. The one thing that's a downside on the sync modules, and I think my sync modules are, hold on, I'll tell you what version they are. I had one time where it did an update of a sync module and it did not go well. I'm at 16.0.14 on my firmware on my sync modules. Let's check the other one just to see. He is also on 16.0.14, but somewhere's between 15 and 16, the first 16.0.3, I think, it did not update well at all and had issues. And I wasn't sure if at the time it was the Blink module, or the updating service, because there was a problem with the updating service not working at the same time. And I even raised a problem to Amazon, and I don't think they ever even answered it completely because they figured out it was their service that was out as well. But when you have local USB drives in there to do it for storage, it will occasionally give you an error and say it was failed to do the recording, okay? And may be fine the next day. And I've gone through and I pulled the flash drive out, I've reformatted it, put it back, or I've checked it in a check disk. There's no errors found. There's nothing wrong with the flash drive. And it's a brand new flash drive. And it was, I think it was, I'm not sure if I used 64 or 128K meg gig, you know. And like I said, it still had issues. No matter what I tried, and I tried to use premium ones, didn't care, would still give you occasional errors. Depends on how many things are locally recorded in a day, how many clips you record, and whether or not that is exceeding some throughput going to that flash drive. If you don't have an Amazon subscription, you can only record to that USB. And you can view the USBs that way. So you have no cloud storage, but you should be able to use your cameras. If you do use cloud storage, all of your clips are stored on Amazon for 60 days and then they get erased, unless you manually download them yourself. So, and then it's supposed to back them up to the USB as well, but there's no way in the app to see, show me the files that are on the USB. You have to pull the USB, unmount the USB, plug it into your computer, and then go look at the clips yourself.
I've got an X10 camera that has a micro SD card, you know, like a 1 gig, and it'll record for about 24 days.
Yeah.
24 hours a day.
The problem is you end up wearing out the SD card. And because if it's not leveling the SD card and it re-records over it, then how many times before it is overwritten the locations too many times? That's one of the failure modes of dash cams, is when you plug in a SD card or a USB stick or something, it's too many read-write cycles, and they basically go through the dash cam storage quickly, and it becomes smaller and smaller because it is less and less usable space. If it doesn't just say, I can't record anymore, which is typically what you normally see. I had a similar problem with SD cards that I used on old Motorola phones back 3 versions of Android ago, when I would record from camera directly to the SD card and not save it in local memory. So if I recorded it and saved it on the SD card real time, every time I took a picture, it would put it on the SD card as the primary store. That would wear out the SD cards, and I had 2 Kingston 16 gigabyte SD cards replaced under warranty. Since then, what I've done is it's a little bit smarter. I let it record to local memory on the phone, and then periodically I will snapshot a copy of my DSIM subdirectory to like my NAS drive, and then I'll bring back a copy of it into a folder that I would put on the SD card. So I still have local copies of the photos on the phone. They've just moved from main memory to the SD card. And I've not had an SD card wear out since. At least not yet.
That's the problem that Tesla had. You know, I had a Tesla, and I put in a little a micro SD, but you had to use the Pro that's designed for video, not the ones just for, because it kept writing over.
Yep, overwrite. And a bigger one probably works out better than the smaller one because there's less to overwrite. But it is, you're going to be going through SD cards.
Yeah.
So when you buy your Tesla, Sid, you're going to lay in a supply of SD cards?
Well, I got rid of the Tesla. No longer have it.
Oh. Well,
No,
Sid's considering buying one.
As I said, they've gotten really cheap now. The alternative is you go to Hertz. Hertz decided to get out of they have a location in Des Plaines, and they have something like 2,800 Teslas for sale.
Well, the problem is that people that don't know how to drive Teslas, you know, screwed them up. And then when they got the winter, they let the batteries run down, didn't get them charged up, and that's what screwed them up.
Yeah.
So I went to a plug-in hybrid.
Which one?
Toyota RAV4.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah, I love that car, but the up cost is so high, I would never be able to break even.
Well, you got to look at it other than break even.
No, the thing that you got to look at is the advantage of using a hybrid, any of the hybrids that use recuperative braking.
Yep.
Because I'm at 92,000 miles on our Prius, and it still has original front brakes.
Right.
And they don't need to be done either. You know, your front brakes are fine. If you're not heavy on the brake pedal, because the only time you're using those front brakes is when you jam on the binders because you're doing a panic stop because somebody just pulled in front of you. Most of the time, if you're just gently braking, you're putting it back into the batteries.
Up until you get down to a couple miles an hour, and then it reverts over to the hydraulic
even
brake.
Then, on a hill, I've been able to go straight up and stop, basically, and balance it right there. And like, okay, we're not going anywhere. Yes. But yeah, I've had problems with some of the back brakes with like a caliper, not wanting to release properly, and that happens. But so we've had that work done on the rear brake, and we've had the inverter replaced once. So other than that, that's the only things we've had to do in that car. I mean, that's a sight better than like even my Traverse, where I had to replace the steering rack because it started leaking power steering fluid. Yeah, Sid, you had an answer?
No, when I was talking about breaking even, I'm not talking even about ICE versus electric. I'm talking about a hybrid RAV versus a prime RAV. The price differential just seems so great that I don't see how I mean, obviously you did, but I can't figure out how to justify the difference between a hybrid RAV and the prime.
Well, the prime is going to go for more money, but you got to figure out how far am I going to go every time I plug in? And you're going to be plugging in quite often and then just using it for your short trips. So what is it, 35 miles? It's something like that it goes?
It was rated at 42. I get 50 in the summer and 38 in the winter.
Yeah. So you can easily, get that 50 because my Prius was only rated at 48 miles. And my long-term average is almost 50. And in this weather, we're up to 52 to 53.
Yeah. I've had over 50 in the summer.
Yeah, the best I ever had was 67 going to Michigan and back. when it was relatively new. Yeah, I was able to.
Last,
Yeah.
yeah. Last year I put gas in December, filled it up, and I didn't put any more gas in until June.
Yeah, the gas lasts so long I have to use stabilizer in my Prius Prime, which is a 2020. I have a 2020 Prius Prime. So I got mine used, which helps with Sid's little problem with the upfront costs.
Yeah, yeah.
But even so, I mean, I didn't think that, oh, the Prius as a hybrid, well, what is it worth the increase in cost in the private, in the hybrid? And after, the 14 some odd years that it's been around, I mean, it's definitely paid for itself in the differences in gas mileage.
Well,
And Brad?
mine keeps telling me I'm getting over 130 to 140 miles to the
Yeah.
gallon.
Yeah.
I do almost exclusively in-town driving unless I'm driving between two different places that might be more than 10 miles apart.
Yeah.
Around Boston, a long distance is 10 miles.
My daughter has the Chrysler hybrid van, the plug-in one, and it gets about 40 some odd miles on its battery. When they first had it new, they were they went over 1,000 miles before they had to put gas in the tank.
Yeah.
And she's about 35 miles away when she would take it to work, but most of the time it would be at home. But when she would take it, yeah, she may have to use a little bit of gas on the way home, but that would be it. Yes, go ahead.
Curious. So you Prime people, do you use a 110 outlet or did you put in a 220 outlet?
I use ChargePoint. I pay as I go, and there's a $2 minimum, which is just about what it costs. In winter, at winter electricity prices, $2 is just about a full 6.2, 6.3 kilowatt.
What is ChargePoint? I don't know.
They are a private company which
Yeah.
operates charging stations. Tesla has its charging stations. These are level 2.
Well, I had a level 2 that I put in my garage when I had the Tesla. And I just bought an adapter. It was about $80, $90. Fits on the end of the Tesla plugs right into the RAV4. And it charges from 0 to 100% in 2.5 hours.
And that's what it's supposed to do in 12
Yeah.
hours and 110.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, everything
26.
I read said it was for Prime, it was fine to just use 110 because it was a smaller battery.
Well, as
if
long as you
you
need,
have overnight to
yeah,
charge it.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, you can.
But at level 2, mine will charge up in 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Since I already had that, I just use it.
Yeah. And then I'll be able to drive maybe 10 miles if I'm lucky. We have hills.
So you have the RAV4. It's a 14.9 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah.
So it has a 6.6 kilowatt onboard charger, which is what the 110 is. And so that's why it's going to take longer to charge. And I'm not sure.
Mine's got 6.5 kilowatt charger. Originally they had a 3 something that took 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
And
18.1 on the 2022. Yeah. And then you'd have to figure out, you're trading electricity cost for gasoline, although you're not going to get close to the gasoline price for the most part. It'd be about half.
I figure it cost me 3.5 cents a mile to run on electricity.
And that's doing better because I figured the Teslas with their rated thing is at least 4 cents to 4.5 cents a mile. So, and the Prius with $4 a gallon, with when I'm getting 55 miles a gallon or something like that, is about 8, 7.5. So, but when gas goes up in price, and we know it's going to go up in price again, give it time. It always does.
Yeah, I find that I spend less on the electricity that I put into this thing than I would be spending on gas over the
Now, if I
course of a
could
month.
find the super cold superconducting magnet that I can put on the front of the Prius and just energize enough when I'm behind a 18-wheeler.
Yeah. Or just get a magnet strong enough so that you can just ride coasting.
Just this thing that comes out from underneath and then goes forward and just gets close but not touching.
Yeah.
Right.
And use AI to balance it so you're just maybe a foot away. They were showing it. Actually, you can, depending on where you are, following large trucks, depending on how the trucks are organized, especially if you're following one and you're a little closer than you're supposed to, but and you get one on at least one side to block some of the airflow coming around, it all of a sudden you can like lower your gas pedal almost to nothing and be pulled along and coast. That's the nice thing about most hybrids. The hybrids, you can balance your foot on the pedal and you're coasting without being illegally coasting. When you put your car into neutral and coast, that's illegal under Illinois law. But if you're in drive and you have a Prius or a hybrid and you balance the gas pedal between charge and discharge, put it right on that little nothing. Yeah. And then if you're downhill, you're gaining speed sometimes. And if you're behind a big truck, you can be pulled along on a level surface for miles. That's how we got up to the 67 number. I know there are some people that can do even higher than that.
Well, the hills around here, if you're going downhill, you actually have to have your foot on the brake a little bit in a hybrid.
Yeah.
And
but that's still putting the power back in, though.
Yep, still putting power back in. Yes, you are.
That's what it does. But remember, for every downhill like that, there's going to be an uphill on the other side.
That's right. You just better hope you can just get enough speed to go over there. Yep. That's like my dad's car used to be, a Rolls Canardly. Rolls down one hill, can hardly make it up the next.
Yep.
But when I get out on the highway, though, I hit hybrid and I run it on the engine because at 70, 80 miles an hour, running on all electric, it chews that up really quick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see how that would. But on my Prius, we almost always have it completely on the eco setting. I don't think we've ever used the power setting.
Mm-hmm.
And for acceleration, even with the eco, it still accelerates just fine, faster than many cars do, because it uses more battery and shoot, you're gone. If you don't have that battery though, you have no acceleration. Which is what I found out when the inverter failed. Yeah, because the inverter failed, so I had no battery, and I'm running solely on the CVT and the gasoline engine. And I'm getting on to the Kennedy at Ohio Street, and all of a sudden I'm in the middle lane and boom, check hybrid status. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is not a good one. But
I'm not sure if you lose the battery that I could run my car, because this does not have a starter. It starts the engine with the electric motor.
I'm not sure. Mine actually has a starter because the hybrid failed. Okay, the hybrid system failed, but I was still able to start the gasoline engine okay, because they still had a conventional starter.
You're not a plug-in. See, the plug-in hybrid. Plug-in hybrid. Hybrid on it.
Yeah, on the plug-in hybrid that I've got, the Prius Prime, you can start the car even if you have no charge. The thing is,
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure you
it does
probably
have
have
a
a
starter.
starter on there,
Yeah, yeah.
Wayne.
Yeah.
You have a
You
you have
look it up.
Huh?
You look it up. I've looked it up on the internet. It's in my wife's Audi. She's got an Audi, and it's got a 48-volt battery for regenerative braking, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have a starter either. It uses this electric motor thing that's for generating electricity for braking. It uses that to start the engine.
Hmm.
Look it up.
Okay. It
So
doesn't
you have to
actually-
have some kind of charge in order to get started.
Yeah.
starter
Well,
motor.
Make sure you got a good supply of D-sized batteries.
Yeah. Or use one of those jumper, one of those portable jumpers.
Actually, that isn't a bad idea for what it sounds like.
Well,
Let's see.
In fact, those are sometimes sold as emergency startup
Yes,
kits.
I've got one of those things, and I've had to use it in the past when I was away from home and there was not enough of a charge in the battery because it was dying.
yeah.
And that started the car right up. And as long as you don't do hard braking or something like that, you were just fine to get to somewhere to get the battery replaced.
Yeah. Even a nearly dead battery, you can still the alternator will still work to charge it up a little bit.
Well,
Yeah, it says there. It said there is no 12 volts. There's no 12-volt starter. It uses there is a starter motor, but
Yeah.
it's not a 12-volt unit. Now the question is whether the inverter is needed to start the engine. In that case, is it using the 355 volts or is it using something else? That I don't know. Because I don't know if you can. Do they have a separate inverter for 12-volt then too from the traction battery? I wonder.
Well, it's got a DC to DC. The traction battery goes from 350, 365 DC to 12-volt DC.
So you have two inverters at
Yeah.
least. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've got the one that goes from AC, the 120 or the 240 AC to the 360 DC.
Yeah. But I'm wondering when it runs the actual traction motors, if that's run, that has to go through some control setup
Oh,
as
the
well. I
traction
don't know.
motor? Well, that's three phase.
Right. So it has to convert. Okay, so there is an inverter that
Oh, yeah.
converts 355 DC into some voltage three phase.
Yeah. It converts it into three phase, 300 volts.
Okay.
And
So
some of
then
the
you
cars,
So
some
you
of the
have
cars,
multiple inverters then. Did they
Yeah,
give
oh,
you
yeah.
an additional warranty on those as well? Was that part of the class action?
it could be.
I wasn't sure. The class action that I happened to mention at the Toyota dealer was one for a number of the Toyota that had at least the nickel cadmium batteries.
Now, some of the newer cars like the Lucid, I think they instead of using the 300, they use 900 volt DC.
I don't want to get under the hood with that guy.
Yeah.
That'll arc, and that'll keep going.
Yep.
Once it starts arcing.
Yep.
No, I did I used the claim there when I went to the Toyota dealer. Says this is covered under the 20-year extended warranty they added on the inverters. And yep, they said it's covered. It just happened to be the inverter was the thing that died. Because I was sort of suspecting that that's what it was when it failed on me, and I noticed I wasn't using I wasn't charging, and I wasn't using any of the battery capacity on the traction battery from what I could see on the front panel. So I thought, well, I'm just running on gasoline here. It didn't go down that terribly because I was still, for the tank, I had like 49.3 miles a gallon, and I went down to 49 by the time I came home, and that was from 42 miles downtown. So I thought, okay, well, that's not too bad. And then I parked it in the garage thinking, well, that was probably a bad idea. I may have to have it towed out of there. But no, I was able to start it, drive it to the Toyota dealer, and leave it with them. And they said, oh, it'll take a week. 3 days later, said, it's done. It's an inverter. Yeah.
There's one heck of a lot of inverters on those cars.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can tell you one thing. When I had the regular hybrids, the 2005 and 2010 Prius, they used to run through batteries, conventional batteries, really fast.
The
They were
12-volt
just-
battery?
They were just
I'm only
murder
on
on those batteries.
I think I'm only on my second one. Well, maybe third. Maybe it's the third one. Has to be at least the third.
But the plug-in doesn't seem to have any serious issues with battery.
Yeah,
So
that's
far.
good. Yes, you have a 12-volt lithium battery under the hood.
That'd be interesting. Well,
Yes, it is.
It'd be safer than the lead acid.
Could be. Well, yes and no. Depends on whether it short circuits and burns up or not.
Yeah, well, there's a downside.
They
to
still complain about that. Like, okay, if the case of a lithium battery fire, have a bucket of sand.
There's a downside to everything.
Yeah.
Some of the new cars now, they're coming out with 18-volt DC so that they can use smaller wiring.
Cheaper, less wiring. Remember, we went from 6-volt on up.
Right.
And that 13.6 can easily be 14.4 in a normal battery. And when it's the alternator's running, and it's not that big of a step to go to 18. I mean, most of the stuff was protected to 18 anyway. Didn't have any problem. Any suggestions for future meetings? Anything you'd like to look at? Sid?
Let's have them.
Oh, pardon?
You said any suggestions for future meetings? I just said, let's have them.
Let's have them. Let's have them. Okay. For a minute, I thought you said something about tandem, and it says, yeah, I could do tandem. But
No.
Okay. I'm just looking for any ideas, stuff that may come up and might be interesting to talk about, so on. Okay. Well,
Unfortunately, my brain is already mostly shut down. So I would normally have ideas, but right now I'm sort of near shutdown. I do have one last unrelated question, though.
Okay.
Anybody here have experience with Ozempic?
Haven't used it.
Okay, I just was put on it. It took 6 months to get an appointment for the endocrinologist. Finally saw her this week, and she prescribed Ozempic. It's arriving from the home pharmacy tomorrow. But it's scary stuff.
Yeah.
If you read online, it's scary stuff.
Are you using it on label for diabetes?
I'm type 2, yeah.
Yeah. There, it's a lot safer than it is for the weight loss.
Yeah. So you're using it the right way. Just make sure you're injecting it properly, and you'll have to deal with the side effects, which has tendencies to run. You can read the list online, but there's a number of things.
Stuff.
Yeah, that is. And watch your interactions to see if there's anything else you're taking that might possibly interact with it. And usually, your pharmacist will advise you of those things.
Yeah.
And in my case, it's my daughter, so she's the pharmacist. So, all right. In that case, thank you very much. And
Thank
hopefully
you.
we'll have a
Thank
meeting next
you.
month.